because this is our land. Come my brother, come my sister, and let us build a nation together. Oh, yeah, yeah. Remember, the key to success is working hard. For our country we must have regard. Forget all your differences, let we start to build. And onward to progress we surely will. Because now, more than ever, we must show discipline, tolerance, and production to build a strong and better nation. I say that is the main foundation. So come let us work hand in hand, because this is our land. Come my brother, come my sister, and let us build a nation together.
Welcome to the Dynamic Hour. Every Sunday from 1 to 2, we deliberate. We engage in a meaningful dialogue via radio and social media. What we try to do is to lift the level of conversation. What we try to do is to separate the noise from the facts, from the real information that you must have. Because out here, you have a lot of people on podcasts, talk radio, and so on. They believe they're communicating with a great number of people, and many a times it is not for their good. We want you to be educated. We want you to be enlightened, to be empowered. We want you to be a better person after the program. That is why we try our best to disseminate credible information. Because I can tell you, we are up against some obstructionists who are on the opposition side, and they have the resources. They have pundits and surrogates who are on different programs, peddling lies and disinformation. And they do so consistently, they do so regularly, and it's all about confusing the Grenadian people. They want you to start to have doubts about Grenada's prospect, about Grenada's future. And that is why our job is so important. We have to cause our people to be critical thinkers, to go deeper and ask tough questions. That is important. So today I want to go straight into it by congratulating the Most Honorable Deacon Mitchell and the community of Belial and all the volunteers, the contractor, the sponsors with this WASH program. This is a very important program. This program seeks to eliminate the pit latrines that are in our communities. This is a very, very important program. And between now and 2027, it is the hope that, well, it's the government's hope that pit latrines will be either gone for good or very, very, very little would be around. So the government is starting somewhere with the community on board, with concerned citizens on board. And I really love that initiative. I want to commend the government of Grenada for that. It is different from the bathroom and toilet that the government of the past attempted to do or started, right? Where they had this program where they were constructing bathrooms and toilets for people. And that was a good initiative, right? That's the previous administration. But this one is different because the community is involved in the process. It is not like the government just taking their money, taxpayers' money, and build a bathroom facility for somebody or some family. The government is a stakeholder in the process. So you have people who are given toilets, who are given toilet, facets and fittings and everything like that, the plumbing material, people given the toil, the tiles, the tin set, the labor. It's a community thing, right? So the government is a part of it, the community is a part of it, civil society, corporate society, they're a part of this initiative, and I really love it. Once you have the community involved, once you have the businesses in the area and so on involved, that is what you want to see happening. People will own it. So the first of many, the launch of the program was on, a couple of days ago, the launch of the program, and they actually had the first bathroom and toilet facility completed, and I think they have about 10 ongoing. So things are happening quite fast in the Belial community.
This program will not happen and it will not be successful if the residents of the communities themselves do not back, support, and get involved in these programs. It is your homes, it is your children, it is your parents, it is your brothers and sisters who are going to be impacted by this program. And so when Mr. Whiteman signaled the needs for us to put aside our differences, put aside our gripes, and ensure that we unite to make this a success, that really is the key message that we want coming out of this. We want the community of Belial to be more united, stronger, improved, and a better community now and in the future coming out of this program. So it's not just about the concrete, it is not just about the tiles, the shower curtains, the toilet. It's about you, the citizens, and making sure that as a community you recognize that together you can improve your collective well-being. And this is important because we have, unfortunately, in the past, politicized and tribalized basic access to things that are important to all of us. Someone should not have to pick whether this house gets a bathroom or that house gets a bathroom based on who they perceive you voted for. Someone shouldn't have to pick whether your house will be repaired or a window provided if you can't afford it based on who you voted for or who you supported. And that is precisely when, despite the pressure to go immediately and to try and fix a house here or provide one bathroom here or a bathroom there, I said, no. If we are going to fix, we should try and fix everybody. And that is the goal of this. And so we are not here to ask who you're supporting. We are not here to ask who you voted for. We are not here to ask what your religion is. We are not here to ask your gender. We are here to ask if you need access to water, to sanitation, and if we're in a position to help, we will help. And it is important also for us in the community to help ourselves and to help each other. That is the way I grew up. That is the way most of us grew up. That is why we used to have the maroon. That is why if someone was fixing the house, all of us will come out in the community and chip in a hand to try and help this person build their homes. And that is the only way in which we'll be able to collectively take this community and Grenada forward. So one of the key conditions of this program is that the beneficiaries all have to commit to helping themselves and to helping their neighbors. And that is the most important condition of this program. If you're not prepared to help yourself, and if you're not prepared to help your neighbors, then we cannot be prepared to help you. Because as I think the Bible says, faith without works is faith without works. So we need some works, and we need the work from everyone in the community. So
Right. So that is a very good initiative. And as I told you, it is a different program from what the NNP had. What the NNP had was a contractor given a work to build a bathroom and toilet in a person's house. So taxpayers were actually footing the bill for that. But this particular program is one that includes the community. So you have the community deeply involved in it. So the government is only a stakeholder. So community groups are involved. Uh, the businesses, civil, uh, not civil society only, but the whole business community, right? The corporate community, as we would call them, they're involved because one company alone decided to say to the government, I will not take any markup for this particular undertaking, all the toilet bowls and everything like that, right? They said, look, we're going to bring this thing in for you, and we will just ask you to pay what it costs. So we are not taking any profit. We're not taking anything on it. We're going to bring it in, and you're going to just pay exactly what we pay for it at no cost at all, in terms of the company taking a profit and taking, all the additional things that they normally add to it. And that is good. Then you have people in the diaspora, for example. There's a gentleman in Trinidad who gave a whole set of stuff for the bathroom end of things, the pipe head, the faucet, all those different things, just like that. And then you have other people who give in the tiles, the tin set, the other stuff, the multi-bond, whatever they used to call that, some years ago. I know they used to, I think it's multi-bond, whatever. But there are people who are giving stuff, and there are people who are giving their time, they're volunteering to paint. So it is totally different from what the NNP had. And that is why I said to you, the program that the NNP had to build bathrooms, it was a good one. Wonderful. Trying to help people to get out of the pit latrine setting. That was a good thing. They started that program, before the election and so on. They covered some grounds, but this particular program is a very good one because the community is involved. It is not just government taking money and spending it to do a bathroom and a toilet facility. And many a times it's done based on your political affiliation. You heard our beloved Prime Minister there making it clear. They're not in the community to ask who you vote for, right? Who you voted for, what religion you're part of, what background, your educational background, and they're not interested in that, right? All they're interested in is improving the lives of the people living in the different communities. And I think that's a very, very good initiative. It's different. So you would hear the NNP from time to time saying, well, they had a program, so. Well, okay, you had a program, so. Well, congrats. Wonderful. Bravo. All right? So great. But I am saying to you folks, this program is different from the one that the NNP had. And it's clear the community is more involved in this particular initiative. The business community is more involved in this particular initiative. And you heard the Prime Minister. When they bill yours, you must support the other person who they will be billing for. You, the person, the recipient, the beneficiary. And then that person who will benefit will have to join in to help, because you may not be able to buy 5 or 6 or 7 blocks or the paint or the cement or the sand or the gravel or the toilet bowl or the sink, but you might be able to jog something. You might be able to cook something. You might be able to be there to support and help. And that is a great initiative, if you ask me. Each one help one. And once you do that, you know things will happen. Right, so I am actually showing the actual official ribbon cutting for that first bathroom and toilet facility. So those on the radio, you would not be able to see, but those on Facebook and YouTube, you will actually see the first one that was officially, commissioned or opened or given to that family, completed and handed over. They cut that ribbon a couple days ago at that official launch of the program. Right, and folks, it's not no old thing. You see the size of that bathroom and toilet facility, it's classy, it's done well. And I remember our beloved Prime Minister making such a statement: if you're doing something, do it good, or else don't do it. If you're doing something, do it well, or else don't do it. And I think we are seeing that in how they're doing stuff. Look at that bathroom facility, how it's properly tiled, uh, the inside, you just look at it, it's just different, totally different. It's not like what the NNP used to do, may I add. It was just a japa old thing. And NNP started off doing something similar uh, just close to the election, right? But they were in power for 23 years or so. If they had started that initiative 23 years ago, by now, we would have been able to see we have no pit latrines being used in Grenada, right? Because here, our government is seeking to eradicate the whole toilet pit latrine thing between now and 2027. So just about 4 or 5 years undertaken, house by house by house. And I think they can get there. Even if they're not able to complete everything, at least they'll be able to reach very close to it if they go at it the way they are. So I want to commend the government. I want to applaud them. Keep doing what you're doing. Excellent, excellent, excellent. And folks, we are up against a serious opposition obstructionist team. And because they're called opposition, they are opposing consistently, right? They're opposing everything. And it is sad because they have listeners, they have followers. For example, our government during the campaign stated very clearly that they will build a teaching hospital facility. They already got the lands because they're not just promising, they're fulfilling their promises. And I have been on this program talking about how important a teaching hospital facility is to Grenada. Bearing in mind we have the university right here, and the students tend to leave Grenada, go to the United States, go to England to do the practical aspect of their training to become a doctor, to become a physician. We could do it right here. The money could spend right here, and our people can get top healthcare service from that teaching hospital facility. But you have those out there who are part of the opposition force and the obstructionist force in this country who don't understand certain things. So they're out there on their platforms saying all manner of stuff. Listen to this individual called Andre Donald. Right? Listen to him for a moment.
He's taking a huge portion of land. I think it's about 20-something acres, Carl?
Yeah.
20-something acres of land.
Floodplain.
Arable lands that are basically in a floodplain area. Lands where Cardi is located. And they do all sorts of different tests and what you may have it in relation to agriculture. They're taking these lands to put down a hospital, a teaching hospital. The question remains, do we need to have a teaching hospital in Grenada, or do we need a hospital? They're two different things. Because when you're teaching, that means you experimenting on Vale when she go in the hospital, you know? Because you're teaching. And I don't know if the Prime Minister realized the different things that he said.
Right. So folks, that is the sickness that exists out there. That is the level of disinformation that exists out there, and there are people who will listen to these people, and you wonder. It's like he doesn't understand what is a teaching hospital. So let me play here for you some information on a teaching hospital.
Inside healthcare. Today we're taking a look at academic medical centers and teaching hospitals, the pioneers of our healthcare system. Hospitals are not all created equal, so it's important to know the differences. Academic medical centers have two components, a teaching hospital and a medical school. However, a teaching hospital can still exist without a medical school. You see teaching hospitals and academic medical centers all the time on popular TV shows, like House and Grey's. That's because as far as hospitals go, they're actually pretty cool and have some of the most fascinating cases. But what's the deal in real life? Where do they fit into the healthcare system and why are they vital? So check it out. Academic medical centers are responsible for training, research, and patient care. The same can be said for teaching hospitals. Just remember, no medical school, so it's practical training. Academic medical centers and teaching hospitals have enormous impact. In fact, all academic medical centers have a trauma center. For more info on trauma centers, check out some of the other Moducation videos. Without academic medical centers and teaching hospitals, where would doctors learn? How would patient care advance, and where would you go if a general hospital couldn't help you? Academic medical centers and teaching hospitals are large centers of research which generate new ideas and lead to novel concepts and therapies, such as MRIs, open heart surgeries, hand transplants, and even the first self-powered artificial heart. Teaching hospitals provide clinical education and training to medical students, residents, and postgrads. As key centers of research, academic medical centers and teaching hospitals are responsible for medical breakthroughs, from new approaches in prevention and diagnosis to treatments and cures. Advances pioneered at these institutions dramatically improve the health of our nation. We hope you have a better understanding and appreciation of our academic medical centers and teaching hospitals.
Right, so that's just some information for those who don't know, who don't understand how important a teaching hospital is, because definitely from those obstructionists, those pundits for the opposition force, they just don't understand this, or if they know, they're fooling the listeners and the viewers. I don't know what they're hoping to achieve. It is like Uncle Gary deciding to set up St. George's University or give the lands and concession and everything like that to St. George's University to set up a university here. And those who don't understand and who don't have the vision, who cannot see down the road, will say, no, why do we need a university in Grenada? That is how this guy songs. He sung just that way. There were opposition to the university coming here. right? And setting up. And look, today, we are benefiting significantly from that. It's just like the Morris Bishop International Airport. There were a lot of people who say, well, it's too big for you. Why we need an international airport? Look at how we are benefiting today from it. So it's so sad that those opposition forces, those obstructionists, they're out there saying, well, why do we need a teaching hospital facility in Grenada? It's sickening, but they have people who are actually listening to them. They have people who will, you know, believe what they're saying. But let's listen to the most honorable Deacon Mitchell on this.
Things. We are seriously pursuing the national health insurance because we genuinely feel, particularly for major medical issues, which oftentimes has the potential to bankrupt a person, if we have insurance, you at least are guaranteed that you have the ability to pay for most, if not all, of the expense associated with that. Two, we are significantly looking to beef up scholarships and so on that are available to our nurses and other healthcare professionals. As you're aware, we also continue to look for scholarships opportunities for persons to study medicine and so on. But I think the big strategic one is the new hospital. And we view the new hospital from a revenue generating concept. We want to have a state-of-the-art hospital that allows the doctors at SU to do their rotations here. If that happens, that means they spend 2 additional years here. That helps to boost the economy from a tourism perspective, but it also gives almost immediately our public access to a lot more doctors, even if they're trainee doctors, than otherwise would have obtained. I think two, we specifically want to target health and medical tourism because we think that feeds directly into our tourism brand and what we want to do. And if we do so, it means then that the revenue generated from this can help to underwrite the cost of running the hospital. And if we do medical tourism, then the medical tourism must be first class and world standards, which then means all public gets the opportunity to have first class medical attention. Three, our primary healthcare system, and make sure that healthcare services are available in our communities and that it's heavily focused on preventative healthcare, making sure people understand nutrition, make sure they eat right, make sure they exercise, make sure they take some of the primary healthcare issues like dental care seriously, starting from the schools and so on. So those are some of the things that we are working on. We are currently working with one doctor who's an SGU alumni who wants to open an OBGYN clinic here. He's made significant progress in that in terms of the site, in terms of the physical work on the clinic as well. We are currently reviewing the MOU to get that going.
The government of Grenada remains committed to enhancing the livelihoods of all our people.
Right. So, again, you heard it there from our beloved Prime Minister speaking about the teaching hospital, speaking about health insurance, speaking about the health of our people and what his administration hopes to achieve. And you know, sometimes people say, well, we should not feature those on the opposition side, those obstructionists who are out there saying certain things. We should not zoom in on what they're saying, but we have to do it because they're actually communicating with people. And in Grenada, there are people who listen to nearly all talk programs, all talk shows or podcasts. They follow everything. So they might be listening and learn a thing or two and have a change in their mindset, right? And that is why we do this, to raise the awareness, to say, look, this is what we are up against. So you have the NNP surrogates and pundits, and you have some obstructionists, some opposition forces who are hell-bent on stopping the progress, stopping the transformation agenda from happening. And they have platforms, they have places that they can vent, and they have listeners and viewers. It is difficult. We are up against, some people who just don't want good for Grenada, Carriacou, and PT Martinique. And when they out there and they start to speak, if you don't have a sense, they can easily fool you into believing what they're saying is true. Look at this guy. This individual is saying, do we really need a teaching hospital? That's what he's actually saying. And then you ask yourself, but wait, he understands what is a teaching hospital? I don't believe so. I don't. He knows the amount of students who would leave Grenada after 2 years, 3 years, 4 years of study at SGU and go to the United States and spend 2 more years in a teaching hospital. In England, 2 more years in a teaching hospital. That money could stay right here. The place they rent in, they could continue renting for 2 more years, right? The supermarkets and shops that they normally shop at, they could continue doing that for 2 more years, right? The nightclubs, the events, the restaurants, the bars, and so on. This thing is job creating. If you don't understand, it's a ripple effect in terms of the benefits that can be derived with a teaching hospital with the students there. Not only that, our people can get to do surgeries that you're living here and going overseas for. You can get to do it because remember, they would have top-notch technology, and the facility and so on will be retrofitted with modern stuff, right? That is what happened. Come on. Our people will benefit from that. Being able to do surgeries and so on there that you have to go in Trinidad, go in Barbados, go in America, go in England and so on and to get done. So this will be a win-win for us. But you have those on the opposition side. You have those obstructionists. You have those haters of progress and those who lack vision. Because even if you are an opposition pundit, a surrogate, or somebody on a radio, you must have a lick of sense in you to know that a teaching hospital facility is a good thing for Grenada, Carriacou, and PT Martinique. So you don't go out there trying to oppose that. But folks, that is what we are up against. If you don't know, I told you, they're not going to go to sleep and allow NDC to deliver to the people of Grenada, Carriacou, and PT Martinique and to bring prosperity and betterment for our people. But not only Andre Donald, but you have one called Cindy on that program. And listen to this woman for a moment.
This government, since taking office, has not fulfilled one promise except raising their salaries. They didn't speak about that in the election. They raised their salaries. They promised to pay back teachers. That didn't work. The court said that they didn't have to get payback. They paid pension. Well, I don't really want to tackle the issue of pension because it's part of the Constitution, and so, you know. They take plane, they're flying every Monday morning, every weekend, they're out of Grenada and bringing back nothing. Roads are not being built. Potholes there are potholes in our country now more than ever. They're deep. You could see out to Barbados.
Yeah, so this is what we are up against, folks. They have a platform. They have people listening to their radio. They have people listening to them on online, right? Social media and so on. It may not be a million people, but they have people listening to them. But listen to this woman again. She said this government, since taking office, has not fulfilled one promise. So she's claiming that this government, since taking office, has not fulfilled one promise, or at least one promise, right? That's what she's saying. Folks, you be the judge. But she's on a program saying all of these things, right? And then she went on to say, right, so let me get this one out of the way. Right, so she said, except raising their salaries, and they never raised their salaries. That's incorrect. That's incorrect because what used to happen, the ministers of government under the NNP time had a free for all policy when it comes to gas. So they were going to the central police station and take gas to fuel their vehicles, the gas tank in their vehicle, right? And no matter how many vehicles they have, they were able to go there 3 and 4, 5 times a week with 1, 2, 3 different vehicles. And when you calculate the amount it was costing the government, it exceeded $3,500. In some instances, almost $4,000 a month, including the driver. So the gas plus the driver. So nearly all those ministers had a driver paid by taxpayers, and they were getting free gasoline and diesel at the central police station. So that would amount to almost $3,500 to $4,000 every month. So what the government did, what the NDC did when they came into power, is to cut out this policy and say to all the ministers, you are entitled to $2,000 traveling allowance, and you must drive your own vehicle and you must purchase your own gas with that $2,000. But if you have to pay a driver, you have to pay them out of that $2,000. Right? So that's the approach. So any one of them you see having a driver, the money is coming out from that $2,000. So again, it's a win for taxpayers because government not spending $3,500 or $4,000 for that same thing. What they're spending is only $2,000 for that. So it's a win-win. So the NNP put out that propaganda there, and you have this obstructionist who grab up that thing, not understanding that it's not an increase in the salary. In fact, if the NDC administration had kept the policy that the NNP had in power, when they were in power, where they could have gone into the central police station and take gas and diesel anytime, and all those ministers had a driver assigned to them, that would be they would have been saving more. The ministers of government would have been collecting more and saving more. But not government, the ministers, they would have been faring better, right? If that remained, because they would have a driver assigned to them paid by taxpayers' money, and they would get free gas and diesel at the central police station that taxpayers had to pay for. But now, what they have, what the ministers have, is $2,000 traveling allowance. And they have to take that same $2,000 and buy their own gas and drive their own vehicle. They don't, you understand the point? So you have these people on radio talking this kind of rubbish. And then she went on to speak about pension. Well, she don't want to talk about pension because it's a constitutional thing. She does. She does. She can't speak about that. But not only the pension issue, she's talking about roads. Look at the condition of our roads now. They are way better than before. And government has not fulfilled one promise. It's just rubbish. But let me play it again for you before I play a couple other pieces, because it's important that you hear.
This government, since taking office, has not fulfilled one promise except raising their salaries. They didn't speak about that in the election. They raised their salaries. They promised to pay back teachers. That didn't work. The court said that they didn't have to get payback. They paid pension. Well, I don't really want to tackle the issue of pension because it's part of the Constitution, and so, you know. They take plane, they're flying every Monday morning, every weekend, they're out of Grenada and bringing back nothing. Roads are not being built. Potholes there are potholes in our country now more than ever. They're deep. You could see out to Barbados.
Right. So that is what we have to deal with. The disinformation, the misinformation out there, which is sad. But they're actually speaking to people on radio, on a radio station in Grenada, and on social media. Right? She's saying, well, they have not fulfilled one promise that they made. Well, let me share for you what are some of the promises made by the NDC, just as a start. All right? So our beloved Prime Minister, at the time he was a candidate and political leader of the NDC. That's just before the election, right? In May, the election was in June. 1 month before the election, it was May Day. All right? May Day. And he had this to say in terms of promises.
As promised in my first national address, the National Democratic Congress will be providing further details in the coming days on its plans to address the critical issues facing our workers, including our plan for payment of the pensions to our public workers, our plans to move the payment of salaries across all sectors to bi-monthly payments, our plans to regularize the status of contract and Imani workers, and our plan to provide an effective, efficient, and cheap dispute resolution mechanism to address disputes between workers, unions, and employers.
Right, so that was our political leader at that time, because election happened in June of that said year. So that was May of 2022. Election was the next month. So he made that statement in observance of May Day, speaking to the workers and speaking to the Grenadian people. He spoke about the payment of pension. He spoke about the bi-monthly payments. He spoke about the regularization of workers. He even spoke about minimum wage too, and what they intend to do. All right? The entire piece. It's a longer address, but I just took out that little piece to share with you, just some of the promises made. Because this idiot, this woman who is on radio, is saying, well, look, they have not fulfilled any of their promises. All right? And she only recently said so, huh? Recently. So let me know, you heard what the promises he made. So he spoke about pension. That was the first thing he spoke about. So let me play you a piece regarding that, because it was fulfilled, and you will hear from the union leaders themselves.
This administration must be given tremendous applause and appreciation for the work they have done regarding the payment of the retroactive. Of course, we know about talks about pension reform, but we have ran the first leg and we have ran it well, and hundreds of people, in fact thousands, the whole of Grenada is happy for this, because the retirees, they also have families and people are looking on, and I think it does a lot for social and economic justice in this country that the retroactive payment has been made.
It's a joyous occasion for me. It's like a dream come true. I feel it for those senior citizens who for years had to struggle. Some of them had to go through demeaning job that they would have left, and had to find ways to survive. So it's really a good feeling for me. It's many prayers answered, and I commend the government for taking that bold initiative to pay the gratuity and pension.
Right. So you heard there from Brian Grimes. He's the president of the Public Workers Union. And you heard there from Lyons, right? He was the president for the Grenada Union of Teachers, all right? So you heard from two presidents speaking about how happy they are because the government paid the pension, the retroactive pension and gratuity, and the workers who retire, they continue to get their pension every month. So that was a promise made during the election that was fulfilled, that was delivered. Because here you have this woman saying, no, they did not do anything. And let me say this, they're on platforms, huh? They are on platforms saying those things and fooling people. Let's move to another one.
Plans to pay bi-monthly personal emoluments from the middle of this month are on track. Following the June 2022 general election and the presentation of the 2023 budget, Prime Minister Honorable Deacon Mitchell and his team began the process to implement the measure. Consultations began in February with union representatives, financial institutions, and public officers to get buy-in and support for the implementation. During a press conference on Tuesday, Mike Sylvester, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Finance, assured that public officers will receive their first bi-monthly payment April 14th. He explained that the payments will be made on the 15th and 30th of each month. If the dates fall on a public holiday, payments will be made the last working day before the holiday.
Right. So the government started paying bi-monthly or twice monthly in April of this year. April of this year. That was a campaign promise, and you heard it from, well, at the time, he was the political leader of the NDC, Deacon Mitchell at the time. But now he is the prime minister, the most honorable Deacon Mitchell, our beloved prime minister. So you heard it from him. He spoke about pension, that they will pay the pension during his campaign. He fulfilled that. When they came into power, they paid the pension and gratuity. He spoke about paying bi-monthly. When they came into power, they start the process of paying bi-monthly or twice monthly. That is a person you can trust, because what he says is what he will deliver on. Then he spoke about regularization of public officers, the contract workers and so on. He spoke about that. And that process will commence on, well, as of tomorrow. As of tomorrow, that process will start.
The Ministry of National Security, Home Affairs, Public Administration, Information and Disaster Management held a press briefing on Wednesday to update the public on the regularization of workers with the announcement of the official launch of the regularization exercise scheduled to commence from October 1st. Permanent Secretary in the Department of Public Administration, Lindonna Hille Marshall, says the process of regularization has already started, with several individuals already confirmed in their positions. The first phase is expected to be completed during the last quarter of 2023.
So the decision was taken for us to approach the regularization on 3 phases. The first phase, we would look at persons in acting, temporary, on assignment, and probationary status on the establishment. And as we mentioned, that process has already started, and we are optimistic by the end of December 2023, we should complete the first phase of the regularization exercise.
The second and third phases, which include the regularization of workers on contractual arrangements and Imani trainees, is expected to be completed over the next 2 years.
The second phase, which would look at persons holding PSC contract of service, daily paid, and persons holding ministry letters. That phase we trust we would be able to advance through in 2024. And then we're going to be in a position to start looking at the third phase, which would look at people who are holding contracts for service, as well as the Imani trainees.
PS Marshall says a functional review will also be conducted over the next 8 months to determine the optimal size of the public service.
The functional review exercise will be conducted through the combined efforts of specially constituted teams, as I mentioned, and we are scheduled to commence officially on the 2nd of October, and we anticipate the exercise will run for approximately 8 months. The aim of the functional review is to determine the optimal size of the public service needed to meet the ministries and departments' mandates and the priorities for maximizing efficiency in the public service.
An oversight committee was appointed, which include representatives from the Ministry of Labor, Finance, and Legal Affairs. For MTV News, Troy Gill.
Right, so that's the news, all right? And I brought that for you. The regularization process will commence tomorrow, God's willing. Tomorrow, God's willing, that will start off. All right? Again, it was a promise during the campaign, and they are fulfilling that promise. The whole issue of minimum wage, remember, that one was one that everybody was looking forward to. All right? Because you've been working for one salary for years. for many, many, many years and you're stagnant. The NNP during their time, 23 years and a half, they never adjust the minimum wage. Never. The NDC has to come and do it.
In
And
the
by law,
campaign, one
should
of
be
the
done.
promises made by the now administration was the review and increase of minimum wages in Grenada, which, although required by law to be reviewed every 3 years, was not reviewed since 2011. And keeping good and true to that promise, we did constitute the Wages Advisory Committee, and they, I am happy to report to this House and to the nation, have submitted to the Cabinet the final report, which will be shared with the public shortly in further consultations that have been directed to be commenced by the Cabinet. Madam President, the committee, in the consultations held leading up to the report, had 7 or so public consultations, not including appearances on the media, radio and TV, and of course, many more private and direct consultations with stakeholder organizations, including the Grenada Chamber of Industry and Commerce, the Grenada Hotel and Tourism Association, the call center operators, construction sector, the bus associations, the public sector senior managers, the relevant ministries such as the Ministry of Agriculture, because as we know, the agricultural workers feature in the minimum wages order, the beverage manufacturers, bakery associations, security companies, civil society organization, media workers association, among others. These are some of the stakeholders, apart from the public consultations, that the Wages Advisory Committee engaged.
Right, and you know, they're now about to do a second round of consultation because the report was submitted to Cabinet by this committee. All right? And remember, it's minimum wage. It's not the maximum wage. Minimum means that you cannot get under that amount. So the NNP is out there already trying to misinform the population to say, well, the government is cutting on your wage because as a bus driver, you're collecting this already. As a carpenter, as a mason, you're collecting this already. As a baker, you're collecting this already. As that person, you're collecting this already. So they want to cut it. But hear this, they're not telling the same people who are listening to them that as it stands now, by law, the employee could pay these workers far less than they are collecting because the minimum wage has not been reviewed for almost 30 years, right? So I'm saying to you that as it stands now by law, the employer could go based on what the minimum wage is at this point in time. The NDC is trying to change it to increase it, but as the minimum wage, you can be paid far more by your employer, but at least you should not be paid less than what the minimum wage says. That is what the government is trying to achieve. And folks, lastly, the same woman from Cindy spoke about the salaries or the money for teachers and so on. And I want to assume she's talking about the doc salaries. Well, it was paid. Yes, we know the court ruling was X or Y, but the government of Grenada paid $1.2 million to teachers, hardworking teachers whose money were actually docked by the NNP administration.
It will be like Christmas in July for some teachers as government makes good on its promise to repay salaries that were docked in 2018. During the new government's first post-cabinet press briefing on Tuesday, Minister for Education, Senator the Honorable David Andrew, told members of the media that $1,264,000 will be paid to teachers at the end of July. The previous administration had docked the salaries of teachers who were involved in protest action and remained away from school for nearly 2 weeks. Minister Andrew said the repayment can help to enhance the relationship between the ministry and the teachers, as well as the level of production in the classroom.
In keeping with the spirit of what the Prime Minister indicated, we believe it's not going to be productive to have an adversarial climate with our employees, with our workers. And we know that the docked salaries created a very adversarial atmosphere within our ministry and the education sector for a pretty long time, and no doubt that had cost us quite a bit. So we are happy to announce that this month end, the docked salaries to the tune of $1,264,075.78 will be paid to persons who were unduly docked their salaries.
Minister Andrew says his ministry has been working closely with the Ministry of Finance to meet the financial obligation. He explained that the refund will be administered 1 day after the processing of regular salary payments. Both payments will be disbursed by July 26th.
Normally, salaries are processed on the 21st of July each month. And so this month, July 22nd, would be an additional processing of the docked salaries. We have been reliably informed from our dedicated staff at Finance that this is happening. And so both payrolls would be sent to the respective financial institutions.
Right. So again, docked salaries were paid to the teachers and public officers who were affected by the NNP going into their salary and docking it. All right. So all this misinformation is what we are up against from the opposition forces, from the obstructionist forces. And it's something that I need to showcase and let you know this is what they're actually doing. And I want you to actually hear them, the kind of information they're putting out there without any facts, without any information to back it up. And they just go on a program and just rah, misleading the general public. It is wrong. But they believe by doing these things, they're going to get somewhere with it. But we have to expose it. Folks, I want to wish you all the best. Take good care and have a wonderful, wonderful Sunday. I'll be back with you tomorrow, God's willing, starting from 8 in the a.m. From 8 in the a.m., the